Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Now I did have my usual annual Halloween episode planned for you for this week. Unfortunately, the weather has rather scuppered those plans and I've had to resort to doing something from home. So what I did a day or so ago is I asked you guys on my social media pages to send me questions that you'd like me to answer, and I'm going to do exactly that in this video. So, I'm Adam, these are my metal detectors, and these are some answers. Welcome to D-Tekt Sussex. Right, so before we get stuck into the video, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who sent in their questions. I had far too many to cram into one video, so I've picked 10 of them. I've got them written down here in no particular order on my electric notebook, and I'll just read through them and answer them as we go through. Hopefully you'll find some of the answers interesting and or informative. If you're new here and you haven't seen the channel before, my name's Adam. I've been running the D-Tekt Sussex YouTube channel for over 4 years now. Normally, every week I'll go out for a hunt on the beach, in the fields. I do parks, I've got events fields, I've got all sorts of different areas I do. So normally it'll be a hunt, I record it, I stick it on YouTube for you guys to enjoy. So if that's your bag, hit the subscribe button and you'll get that in your inbox, in your subscriptions inbox every single week. And just occasionally I'll throw in a video like this if it's raining or if I've got some testing to do, something like that, just for a little bit of extra added interest. But most of the time I'll be out there hunting. Right. Let's get into the first question. So, first question, what is your favourite predecimal coin to find? Okay, so I love finding predecimal coins. Coins are one of my favourite things ever to find of different types. I'm quite happy to find modern spendable coins. Obviously this year I've been very lucky. I found a very nice old Roman coin, and about a week or so later I found my first ever silver hammered coin. So I love those coins, but my favourite predecimal one to find, sort of thing you're likely to find on most locations, would probably be the Queen Victoria coins. So not one particular coin, but I found a couple of silver Queen Victoria coins now over the last year or so, and I just like the design of them. They've got a really nice, simplified, but still quite strong and bold design on the back. Seeing Queen Victoria's head on one side, either old or young, is quite special. You know, quite often we'll see one of the Georges, or obviously Queen Elizabeth, but to have a Queen Victoria sixpence, threepence, whatever it may be, I just really like finding them, and some of my favourite coins that I've found over the last year or so, both I think found with a legend, just coincidentally, so there we are. But yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be any of the Queen Victoria coins. Okay, question number 2. Now, I'm not putting names to these questions, by the way. Lots of different people sent these in. I didn't know whether they want me to read the names out or not, so I've decided not to read anyone's names out. So apologies if you were hoping to get your name read out. I'm not putting names to them. A few people asked the same question as well, so some of these have been asked by multiple people. So this one is actually one example. We had this question a few times. Why do you only do pasture and beaches? Well, generally, I do a lot of beach hunting. I've got beaches quite close to me, so it's quite convenient for me to get down there and do some metal detecting. I also have a couple of permissions locally. Both of them are largely pasture. One of them has a woods on the location. The other one is, I refer to it as the farm. because obviously I don't want to give the location away. It is an events venue. Part of it is. I've got 2 massive events fields, which I do quite often. I get a lot of very unusual things out there, as well as some historical items as well. And I started off in those 2 fields, and by getting to know the landowner, by them getting to know me, getting to trust me, they started letting me onto other areas of that location. So I now have a very large field they usually use as a car park, and that is the field I found my hammered coin in. I've got a couple of other smaller campsite fields, and there's actually a manor house, an 18th century manor house on the side, and I've gained access to a few of the walled gardens around the house as well. So it's an incredibly varied, incredibly fascinating site, and brilliant to hunt on. But no, I don't have any sort of agricultural, if you like, fields. No farm fields, actually, sort of ploughed fields, that kind of thing. And it's not for the want of trying. I'm based in the south of England, in Sussex, and there's a lot of fields, a lot of farms around my area, and I have approached pretty much all of them. But you get varied responses, but none of them tend to be particularly positive. You either don't get a response at all, which is the most common thing, or I've found that people either already have people detecting their land, in which case they don't want someone else, and to be honest, I wouldn't want to encroach on someone else's territory anyway. Sometimes you just get an outright no, and then you can't have any sort of discussion with them. And sometimes people just don't want people they don't know on their land, which I can kind of understand. But yeah, so far, despite 4 years of trying, I have not managed to get myself an agricultural farm permission. But to be honest, the permissions I've got are fantastic, and they always bring up something really interesting every time I go there. Beach hunting is a bit of a specialism. It's a bit of a different beast, but I love it just the same, and I love doing all those locations. But yeah, if in the future I can get myself a farm field, I'll definitely be hunting on there. For now though, I'll be doing the farm fields on things like Detectival and other local rallies and digs. So there you go. That's why I don't have any farm fields at the moment. It's not for the want of trying. Right, question number 3. We've got, okay, could you possibly do a quick explanation on the tone break for the legend, please? Rightio, okay. So tone breaks are something available on a lot of metal detectors. Essentially, depending on the setting, depending on the machine, depending on the mode that you're in, you'll have a number of different tones, and each tone will represent, or different pitches usually, and each pitch will represent a section of the VDI range. Okay, so you'll have a sound which will represent the bottom of the VDI range. Say if you've got 4 tones, so you've got one at the bottom, one in the sort of lower mid, one in the upper mid, one at the top. But I say you can have different numbers of tones. The reason you'd want to set up different tone breaks, so the tone break is the bit where the tone changes from a lower pitch to a higher pitch, is if you have particular types of targets you're wanting to find. So for example, you might find that you're looking primarily for coins. So you might set that lowest tone break all the way up to the point slightly below where you're likely to find the lowest VDI coin, if that makes sense. And then anything with that lowest tone you can just ignore. And then you can set up, say you've got another 3 tones available, you can set 3 tiers of coins depending on the type of coin, the material of coin, or what have you, so that you can detect more or less purely by ear, and you know that it's going to be a target at least in the range, the VDI range that you're looking for, purely by the sound rather than glancing down at the screen every now and again. So yeah, that's basically why you set up tone breaks. I tend to leave tone breaks alone, to be honest. That's my personal way of doing it. It doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just my personal preference. I leave all the machines on default on the tone breaks, just so I don't have to keep fiddling with it, to be honest, and I'm using the same machine, the same tone breaks wherever I go, and then I get used to what sort of area the VDIs come up with the different pitches. But that's just me. If you want to set something specific, or if you are looking for a particular type of target and you want to set a tone break for that particular area of the VDI range, then that's what tone breaks are there for. So hopefully that helps explain the tone breaks a little bit more. And yeah, we'll move on to the next question. Okay, question number 4. Let's just scroll up a bit. There we go. How many detectors do you have? Well, they're all here actually. So I've got 4. We'll just run through them. I've got the original Simplex Plus. I've got the Nokta Amphibio. which is a switchable frequency machine. Very, very good machine. I love that machine. We've got the new Simplex Ultra, which is the top of the new Simplex new generation range. And I've got the Nokta Legend, which is currently the top of the pile for the Nokta machines in terms of relic and jewelry hunting. And it's the simultaneous multi-frequency machine from Nokta. So hopefully that's a quick explanation. I've got all 4 machines here: Anfibio, Legend, Simplex Plus, Simplex Ultra. On to the next. Right, next question. If you had to choose between metal detecting and playing instruments, which would you choose? Okay, so this is more of a personal question for me. For anyone who doesn't know, and there's no reason why most of you would know, I am also a musician. I play the trumpet and have done for a very, very long time, nearly 30 years now. In fact, it was going to be my chosen profession at one point. A lot of experience. I do everything from orchestras to bands and everything in between, really. But I have a lot of hobbies. I'm not just a musician. I also do CrossFit. What else do I do? I'm also a charity fundraiser with a group called the Sussex Ghostbusters. So we dress up as Ghostbusters and we go out and we raise money for various charities. I also love filmmaking, just general B-roll. So you see a bit of my filmmaking in my episodes, quite a bit of B-roll at the start of the videos. I'm just trying to build up my filmmaking experience and stuff at the moment, so I can start doing more videos. I'm going to be missing something out because I've got so many little hobbies and interests that I do. I also solve Rubik's Cubes. There you go, there's another one for you. So the reason I'm explaining all my other hobbies and not just answering the question between musical instruments and detecting is because, obviously detecting is another hobby, is because I like them all. I'd rather be doing the hobby that I'm partaking in at that time. So when I'm metal detecting, I'd rather be metal detecting. When I'm playing music, I'd rather be playing music. When I'm out raising money, I'd rather be raising money. You know, I like them all equally. So it's not a case of I'm out metal detecting and I'd rather be playing the trumpet, or I'm out charity fundraising, or I'd rather be making a video. It's not a case of that. It's just I like them all. This is all around my day job as well, so I'm quite a busy boy. But yeah, so a bit of a cop-out answer, to be honest, but that is the truth. I love doing them all, and I'm passionate about all of my hobbies, and yeah, I'll just throw myself into each and every single one whenever I'm doing them. All right, question number 6. Okay, are the VDI numbers the same for each metal across the Nokta range? So the quick answer to that question is no, they're not. But let me go into a bit more detail. So if you imagine the range, the VDI range, you've got the bottom of the range and the top of the range. That scale is the same across all the machines, okay? That is the same. So there's not one machine that can go higher or lower than the other. They're all the same. The Anfibio and the 2 Simplexes, their VDI range is 1 to 99, whereas the Legends VDI range is 1 to 60. Okay, all that means is for these machines, the 1 to 99 is there's smaller increments between the VDI numbers from the bottom to the top. With the Legend, there's fewer increments from the bottom to the top, and there's arguments for and against which one's better, which one's not. The basic benefit for the Legend is that the VDIs tend to be a little bit more stable. So where there is a little bit of a wobble on the target, this will give you 1, maybe 2 VDIs, whereas the other machines will probably wobble over maybe 3 or 4 numbers. So hopefully that makes sense. Note the VDIs are not the same across the machines, but the scale is the same, and the metals on that scale will appear at about the same point, with a slight variance depending on settings and environment. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the next. Okay, question number 7. What are your pet hates metal detecting? Okay. I think the biggest one is whenever I go on digs where other people are there, like Detectable, for example, and other arranged digs where there's lots of other people detecting. The biggest peeve of mine is walking along and finding a hole that someone else has dug and has not bothered to put back properly. Really grinds my gears. When you dig a plug, you dig it carefully, you lift it carefully, you search, you retrieve your item, you put your plug back, and you make sure that that area of land looks exactly as it did before you sunk your spade into the ground. The number of times I go to organised events, Detectable and others, and you stumble across holes that people have dug where they've kind of put the plug back in, but it's at an angle and there's about an inch moat around the outside of the plug, or they just haven't bothered putting the plug back, or they've just destroyed the plug. The plug is now just, grains of mud on the side and there's just a hole in the ground. We need, as detectorists, we really do need to be looking after the land that we're on. There's environmental arguments for that, but there's a bigger argument at the minute for the hobby. Especially if you're doing public land, but equally as important if you're doing private land as well. You need to make sure that land looks the same as it did before you were there. If it's a private bit of land, okay, there's obviously farmers' fields are a little bit different. If it's just mud, then there's, as long as you pat it down afterwards, it's not a huge amount you can do. But if we're talking about pasture, we're talking about the beach even, if you're on private land, that landowner will see the land that you've been on. At some point, they'll go to the point where you've been detecting and they'll see these big circular holes or sections of land that are uneven or what have you, and they'll know it's you. There's no one else who's going to be going around digging holes in their land, and chances are you're not going to be allowed back there. But not just you, no one else is going to be allowed back there either. Okay, so just because you've been banned from a bit of land doesn't mean that someone else can't come in and do it properly. So it destroys your relationship with the landowner and that landowner's trust in the hobby. If you're in a public place, those plugs can be dangerous. Someone can twist their ankle in a hole or trip over an uneven plug. Or if it's, say, in a park, a council-owned park, if the council gets wind that those areas of land aren't being put back the way they should be, then metal detectorists are going to get the blame. And eventually they'll just ban people from detecting there. And there's one park in my area of Sussex that allows metal detecting. Every single other one you cannot metal detect in. And believe me, I've been contacting councils all over the place to try and get on some of the local parks. You just cannot get on them for love nor money. And a lot of it is down to people's perception of metal detecting as a hobby. So it is vitally important to make sure the plugs get put back properly, and it is a pet peeve of mine, a pet hate, as the questioner put it, of the hobby and of what other people do. So yeah, there we go. Okay, getting there. Question number 8. What was your most memorable find? Okay, well, you've used the word memorable, so that's as distinct from necessarily favourite or oldest or most expensive or whatever. So most memorable find probably is a ring that I found about a year and a half ago, I think it was. I was down on the beach and I pulled out this silver ring. I think it was sterling silver, but it had a lot of bling on the top, cubic zirconia, I think. A lot of bling. It was a beautiful ring, absolutely gorgeous ring, one of the best looking rings I've ever found. Pulled it out of the sand down on Eastbourne Beach. Anyway, loved it. Put it out on the YouTube video for that week. One of my friends, Becky from the Eastbourne Treasure Finders, go and check out that channel if you can. She recognised the ring from a Facebook post about 8 months previously. So we went back, we found the Facebook post. I got in touch with the person who made the post. And long story short, the owner of the ring lived up country, came down to Eastbourne to meet a friend, went down the beach, went for a little swim. Obviously the cold water, fingers shrunk, ring comes off, gets lost, and never found again. So they put the Facebook post up. But it was a very special ring for them because it was their engagement ring. So for 8 months, she didn't have her engagement ring. And thankfully we were able to get in touch and verify that it was her ring. And I managed to get the ring back to the owner. So I think because of the expanded story, as well as the lovely looking ring that I found, I think that's probably the most memorable find that I've had in the 4 years that I've been doing the channel. Okay, 2 more questions to go. We've got question number 9. What is the most common thing you see detectorists doing wrong? Ooh, okay. What should we go for? I'm going to go for 2 things. Okay, forgive me, I'm going to say 2 things. So when I'm out and about and I'm at digs like Detectable and wherever there's other detectorists about, the biggest thing, and I think this is a fairly common thing that most people will see, is when you're swinging your coil okay, the coil, the flat plane of the coil, if you're looking from the front, should remain parallel with the ground. Okay, all the way through your swing, right to the end, right to the end. Okay, it's more suitably called a sweep, really, rather than a swing. We call it a swing in the hobby, but it's not a swing. That's a swing. That's a sweep. Okay, but yeah, you see a lot of people who do come up at the sides. Sometimes it's flat and then it just comes up slightly at the ends. You know, that's not too bad. But I have seen people, if I can find the clip, I'll find the clip and make sure the person in it is anonymized. But yeah, you see people doing this, and realistically, that coil is only penetrating into the ground at full depth on that central point, and then as it comes up, the depth gets shallower and shallower and shallower because the field stays the same relative to the coil. So if you're, coming up away from the ground on each swing, then yeah. So that's probably a fairly common thing I see quite often on organised digs. But from a non-practical metal detecting point of view, one thing I see detectorists doing wrong is, it's not necessarily doing wrong because a lot of people are new and they don't necessarily, and they need a bit more experience, but online, don't expect the machine's settings, other people's machine settings, to work for you on your location. Okay, it's by all means ask people for settings and use them and adjust them to fit your particular needs, but no one's going to know your location better than you will. Okay, so it's better for you to try and learn the machine more intimately than you already do. Learn the settings, learn what they do, learn the pros and cons, because every time you adjust something on the machine, you gain something, but you also lose something. And try to adjust the machine for your particular land. Someone could, for example, have their own pasture settings for a pasture field. Works a treat for them. Let's pick the Legend, for example. They might have a program on their Legend that they use for pasture. Works for them a treat. Every single time they go to their local park, works for them a treat. If I stuck that program into my Legend and went to one of my fields, say one of the events fields, it probably wouldn't work so well. Okay, different area of the world, different soil, different location, different levels of EMI, different targets, all sorts of things are different about that location compared to the person that's got the original program. So by all means, take other people's setting, but take them with a bit of a pinch of salt. Start with them, but then tweak them a little bit so you can get your machine tuned to your unique location. Okay, so yeah, those are the two things: swinging technique, or sweeping technique, should we say, and not thinking that one setting will rule them all in terms of all different locations. Okay, so there we go. On to the last question. Okay, question number 10. What coil do you prefer to use for the Simplex Plus and why? Okay, I'll answer it for the Simplex Plus, but there's a general point here about all the machines and coils generally, because I get this question quite a lot for the various different machines that I have. So the quick answer is there is not one coil for any of these machines that is 100% better than any other coil overall. Okay, different coils are not there to make the machine better or worse. They are there to make the machine better or worse in a particular location. Okay, so for example, you've got the massive, I'm going to use the numbers for each coil. So the 35 coils. So for the Simplex SP35, the Legend LG35, and so on. The 35 coil, the big old 35 coil. Brilliant for fields where you don't have a lot of targets, there's no trash, and you really want to get some serious depth and coverage. No good whatsoever for using on the beach or in a trashy park, because they're not sensitive enough to get in between those targets and really filter out the good stuff from what you've got. You're wasting the depth on trying to get between those targets. So for a more trashy site like a park or a beach, it's better to use a smaller elliptical coil like the 24s, so the SP24, LG24, and so on. They're smaller elliptical coils are more precise. The field that comes out the bottom, the blade of the field that comes out the bottom, is thinner. So you can be more precise, you can separate targets better, and they tend to be better with things like EMI and mineralization as well, much more stable than the bigger coil. So there we are, there's just two coils. One is better for one location and not as good for the other location, and vice versa. So it's not a case of what is the best coil for the Simplex Plus, it's the best coil for the location. So if you're on parks and beaches, for the Simplex Plus, go for the SB24. I think that's going to be the best option for that. If you're in non-trashy areas, whether it be pasture or farmers fields, and you want the depth and there's not too many targets about, go for the SP35, the big old one. That'll give you the depth, it'll punch deeper, give you brilliant coverage, and yeah, you haven't got to worry about it trying to get in between trashy targets. So yeah, hope that helps. Okay, so that's the end of my list of questions. Thanks again to everyone who sent in your questions, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. I'll try and keep a note of them for next time, so if we do another Q&A, maybe I'll get to them then. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. If you did enjoy it as an alternative to going out on a hunt, please drop me a comment down below and let me know. It's really good to have feedback to know whether, if I can't get out for a hunt one week, whether this kind of video is the kind of content that you guys would like to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, weather be willing, I'll be back out again with one of my machines hunting next weekend. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you do like this kind of content, whether it be this or the hunting content, hit that subscribe button down below and you'll get a brand new episode from me every single week in your subscriptions inbox. If you have any questions on this video or anything else to do with metal detecting or the Nokta range, hit me up in the comments or send me a message on my Facebook or Instagram pages. You can always contact me on there and ask me questions and clarifications and all sorts of things. And I'll always try to reply as quickly as I can, and I'll always reply to every single message I get. So, until next time, have yourselves a truly fantastic week, and I'll see you soon. Take care.